I was so naive as a child, but so many adults never got to the point, and it's not self-praise or anything like that, but I realize now that I don't, I'm not sure about how easily my parents might have wanted to just not realize things. And a lot of adults wanted to not realize things, so they didn't. But again, I've often thought, no, my parents did know, but they thought that their best strategy was to keep me naive, and therefore what I didn't know wouldn't hurt me, you see. But they were wrong, dead wrong. And I'm still getting over it. I'm going to have to get over it. I can't blame them anymore. And I remember seeing a great quote from, I think it was Carl Jung. I think he said that the child blames his parent, or is the product of the maybe the mistakes that the parents made during his upbringing. But at some point, the child must take responsibility and say that the only one holding him back is now himself. And, I see that at best, like most adults reach a stage where they are in perpetuity, always blaming the experiences they had, the teachers, the parents, all other adults. Why didn't they do this? Or why did they do that? And therefore I can no longer, or I can't progress any further in my either understanding of the world or of myself because of all these harmful things that were done to me, or the good things that weren't done to me. And people find that level and they go, I'm the victim. It's not them. It's not the people who were supposedly hostage, even though they weren't. I'm the victim. Won't somebody please feel sorry for me? And that gets us absolutely nowhere as well. So I'm trying to move beyond that point and now saying, I have a duty. I have a duty to tell everyone, even if they won't listen, and I have to find a way that might suit them best to hear the message, rather than just come in and kind of go, if somebody says to me, and somebody did say to me in a gas station one time, well, the guy behind the counter, he says, you're into conspiracy theories. Who do you think killed JFK? And I went, oh, it's this. So I said that, with knowing there was a queue of people behind me. And he kind of went, oh, shit. Kind of thing, And I went, okay, toodaloo. And, I kind of felt bad about going after that for a while. But I realized the shock tactic doesn't work for everybody. You have to kind of massage them or get around their immediate defenses. That's what I got to do. But most of all, I have a duty to people in the future, because there is another generation and more coming up. I mean, I can't believe now that there's people who are fully, in their 20s, like adults, as they should be. But they were born after 9/11. And, like you were talking about with regard to North Korea, they never knew a world where you didn't have to take off your shoes for no particular reason or whatever, because the tower fell down. Oh, we're not quite sure, but it's all for the best possible reasons. Just trust the government. I mean, it's complicated to think about why, if Building 7 fell into its own footprint and it wasn't even supposedly hit by a plane, well then, why do I have to take off my shoes? I guess it makes sense, but it's all the clever boffins who figured this out. Anyway, obviously the world doesn't make sense, and so they try not to, because it just hurts your head. And I think that's what happens to people in North or South Korea. And also it's what happened to all the children from the 1960s through the 1980s in the Cold War. At any moment, a nuclear weapon from an ICBM could land from Russia in the US, or one that's meant to go from the US to Russia might run out of gas and land in London. But yet we have to get up and go to school, and we have to get up and go to work, because the financial institution that I work in, or the corporation that I work in, needs its shares to go up in value and all this sort of stuff. So you just don't think about the nukes, and it just becomes background anxiety. And then when you're in school, the background anxiety is there, and then you're worried you're going to get in trouble with the teacher if you forget your homework, and then you'll be sent to the headmaster. And I'll finish on this and just sort of say, to describe the fear, and we need to tell the children, all of this is designed to control your mind. But I'll finish on this. Even when I was in high school, the headmaster, he obviously knew the psychology of it, and he would make us wait outside his door. You'd go in past the secretaries, and they go, oh God, have you see him today? Oh God, he's not in a good mood today. And then there was this little corridor where you'd sit, and these chairs, you'd sit, these plastic chairs with the metal, and not comfortable at all. And then he had lights, like DEFCON 5. He had lights going from green through amber, red through amber to green, and it would go amber when he was finishing up with the last guy in there. And then you'd see it going, it was going from orange to green, and then click clunk would go the lock on the door, and you go, oh Jesus, I have to go in now. Oh Jesus. And you were already going through the angst before you even got in there, you know, to find out what kind of trouble you were in. This is what they do. We've all been trauma-based mind controlled with all these stories, whether nukes are real or not. And that's what they did to us. We have to warn the youth, don't pay attention to any of this stuff. What do you reckon, Sage?
I mean, I would say 100% the nukes are real. Just because, yeah. But that's just due to my experience in life. However, to the rest, I mean, South Korea and North Korea are obviously very different, and the fear machine between both is very different. You know, North Korea was very convinced by the Communism Party, obviously, and with that, they are actually very I can excuse me, I'm stumble on this word. Not patriarchal, the other one, the female-led I can't say it. Fuck, can you help me out there with that one, Eternal? I can't say it.
Matriarchy, but
yes, thank you. Fuck, I can't even try it. I apologize. But no, so there's a book called The Cleanest Race by B.R. Myers, and it's about North Korea and the way that they are, the way that they are. And he goes into a great depth. And whereas before communism came in, they absolutely were not like that. But after it came in, they became reliant on the state. The state will take care of them. Just do your job, do your duty. The state, the motherland, will take care of you. And that is one of the biggest reasons why, like, when you have North Koreans go to South Korea, they have the hardest time adjusting, and not to mention the language barriers, because simple words change. You know, the word for hello changes into an insult when you go to South Korea. And you know, it's the same thing happens, you know, when the Soviet Union fell, but for them, they have a very hard time adjusting. So a lot of North Koreans, when they go to South Korea, the refugees, they stay in their little bundles together, their hovels together, and they get by. But they never really come South Korean. It takes years. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing that they stick together? I mean, their national identity has been changed so much. And it's sickening, because if you think about it, the Korean North and South was just one big experiment. Two sides of the same coin. But, no, I mean, when I went to Korea, I was 22, and it made me think a lot back then. You know, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. Absolutely an eye-opening experience for me. And then not to mention, you know, seeing the way... Well, no, I'm not going to get into that. But, yeah, I mean, The Cleanest Race is an outstanding book by B.R. Myers. And he does a great job going into the details on it. It's by far one of the more impressive books that I've read. And yeah, I do need to step out for a minute. I think James is in here if you want to pull him up.
Okay, Sage, thank you. And yeah, I'm not getting any requests to speak, although I do see some illustrious people there in the listeners. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for anybody to step up, what I will say there in response to, I suppose, the phrase that Sage mentioned about, you know, the realization that splitting Korea along and I forget what line of parallel it is anyway, but splitting it north-south as an experiment to see if we can get two people who are genetically the same, but change them by changing their environment and culture from the top down. And, you know, that has happened. I suppose we can extrapolate all throughout human history. These people who do what is often termed human farming. And if it is that they've been doing this for so many centuries, I'm not saying that they are, but I can see why so many of these people do consider themselves to be so from such a rarefied air, almost like that they're looking down on us, you know, metaphorically, but also pretty much literally. They might start to consider themselves as gods amongst men. They might think that they are on Mount Olympus looking down on us mere mortals. And of course, any man who starts thinking that he is God, I mean, it's only a matter of time before he becomes unstuck. and has a ignoble fall from grace, and his pride will be his own undoing. But again, I mean, maybe what they've done is every so often, and now the Freemasons believe this, is that there have been genuine cycles of what we think of as religious mythology is history, and that they do think that there was an Atlantis, a quite literal place in the middle of the Atlantic, and that there was a deluge, but that there were people who didn't forget, and they did etch things in stone, and they tasked or trusted people with the mysteries, and then they went to places like Egypt, and then they brought up a new culture, and so on and so on, from Babylon or whatever. And they've always kept the secrets of the psychology of how to control people through control of their mind. Because the primitive way we've always done it is by thinking you have to, if somebody thinks something you don't like, and their thinks might lead to actions you don't like, then you use force against them to either prevent them or kill them or whatever. You get rid of their mind and their thoughts in that mind by ending the body that has that mind. But these people say, that's such a primitive way of doing things. We'd rather control the mind, and then we can use that body. And they've done this then so easily, and they must be laughing so much at us by saying, look how we split the north of Korea and the south of Korea, and we have them permanently at each other's, well, maybe not at each other's throats, but that they're squared off against each other. And of course, the American Civil War, look how we split that along a line of latitude as well. We picked, Richmond or whatever, and drew a line across from there and said, now we'll set these people at each other. Oh, and we'll do it from coast to coast as well. Or we'll do it from the coastline cities to the interior. And this is the way they fracture us. You divide and you conquer. And they have us subjugated. But every so often, enough of us realize what's going on. We try to wake our compatriots and say, could we put aside our differences in order to redirect our attention to the common enemy? Maybe. And that's what a lot of us are doing now.